I'm Estelle. I'm a conservation campaigner at Zoos Victoria, and I'm joining from Wurundjeri country tonight. And yes, Sarah and I are very excited to be able to speak to you this evening about the topic of cats. So before I launch into it, I'll first just take a second to share, I guess, why I'm passionate about our Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife campaign. And I'll use these two photos here to sort of help tell my story. So on the left here, we've got the Australian king parrot, which, as I'm sure for many of you in the Yarra Ranges, is a very familiar species. And I'm sure similar to many of you, I really love noticing my local wildlife. And this is one of my favorite, I'm a bit of a bird nerd, and this is one of my favorite species to observe. At a previous house that I lived in recently, I was lucky enough to get them frequenting my garden, and I used to have a bird bath out and would really love the opportunity to see them come up to the bird bath, enjoy a bit of time around the water. They also sort of to one of my pot plants that they were quite happy to have a munch on, which was always lovely to see. And I loved observing the little sort of quiet chattering noises that they made to each other. And luckily for them, there was no cat in my garden, so they were able to safely enjoy the bird bath without any concern for their safety, which was fantastic. But that's my favorite bird species, but I also have a favorite cat. So this little guy on the right of the screen here, his name is Jebediah. He's my parents' cat. He's 16 years old and he loves to snooze in the sunshine, as he is in this photo in his sort of older years that he's advanced into now. So I don't have a cat of my own at the moment, but I'm obsessed with Jebediah and I'm constantly trying to persuade my parents to go on holiday more frequently so that I can cat sit him more often, because I absolutely love having him around at our house. So just a little example of, even though for people like myself who are very passionate about conservation, it's a bit of a myth that there's the sort of that divide between cat people and conservationists, because it's absolutely possible to love both our wildlife and our cats. And luckily, when we keep our cats safe at home, we really can have that bond with a special companion animal pet without having a negative impact on our beautiful wildlife around us as well. So just a snippet more about Zoos Victoria, because sometimes that name isn't necessarily that well recognised, but you may be more likely to know us through some of our zoos. For example, Hillsville Sanctuary, which is very close to you. We're in the Yarra Ranges. We also have Melbourne Zoo, Kyabram Fauna Park and Werribee Open Range Zoo, all within the Zoos Victoria umbrella. And we really call ourselves nowadays a zoo-based conservation organisation. So, we've obviously evolved a lot over the years, and now our primary purpose or our goal is to fight extinction and create a future rich in wildlife. So the way in which we do that is manyfold. We do everything ranging from sort of the biological conservation in the wild. We've got a number of 27 species that we're actively trying to save from extinction, including with breeding and release programs, for example. And then I myself get to work on the community side of conservation. So the human side of, trying to get all of the people who come through our gates at the zoos to leave not only having had a beautiful day loving the animals that we have on site, but also having some actions in mind that they can take in their everyday life to help the wildlife that we're lucky enough to encounter. So that's sort of, I guess, where Zoos Victoria comes into this space of working with conservation campaigns. And we have a broad range of campaigns that we work on, but Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife is one that we're particularly passionate about. So conservationists are very interested in the topic of cats due to their environmental impact, but it's also a topic that is very important to look at it through the welfare lens for pet cats. And how we choose to keep them. So that's why, as Zoos Victoria was starting to look in this space, we very naturally went across to RSPCA Victoria and have formed a really strong partnership with them to be able to develop and now deliver as well the Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife program. So the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or RSPCA Victoria for short, have worked with the community to achieve outstanding animal welfare through education, advocacy and animal care and protection for over 150 years. So very natural fit for this campaign. So we're very excited about this partnership that we've been working on for many years with RSPCA Victoria. And with our combination with RSPCA Victoria on the sort of the pet cat welfare side of things, and then with Zoos Victoria's expertise on the wildlife side of the fence, we've been able to set out to help cat owners to keep their cats and their local wildlife safe, and providing advice for cat owners to help keep their cats safe at home. So I'll be presenting more so on the side of the Cat Safe Wildlife campaign and what that sort of all looked like and what we've learnt from that. And then the second half of the presentation, Sarah will be able to jump in with that really great practical advice as a vet on how we can keep our cats safe at home and with very enriched and happy lives. So I'll start with the impact of cats on wildlife, because while cats make really fantastic pets and they've got so many amazing reasons why humans love them, they also, have evolved to be incredibly adaptable predators and can hunt a really wide variety of prey types, including vertebrates, frogs, reptiles, birds and mammals, right down from the size of a beetle to animals almost as large as themselves. So this means that they can have that devastating effect on wildlife, and they do, not only in Australia, but globally as well. And here in Australia, cats can often get categorised into a number of different groups, including feral cats, but for tonight's presentation, we'll just focus in on the cats that are pet cats, owned in some varying degree by people or cared for by people. So looking at the big picture, in total, pet cats are estimated to kill a whopping 241 million native animals per year in Australia. And again, this is just specifically pet cats. This doesn't include the feral cat populations. So you can see a breakdown here across reptiles, birds and mammals. And when we look specifically at native species, reptiles are the group that are most impacted. When it's broken down onto an individual level, on average, pet cats kill an average of 103 individual animals per year, even if they're well fed, if they're given the opportunity. So as owners, we really have the choice, to be able to limit that hunting opportunities for pet cats and still giving them a really safe and happy life indoors. The importance of our cities and towns as habitat for wildlife is really well documented. We've got 46% of Australia's threatened species that can be found in our cities and suburbs. So it's really important for pet cats to be, minimised as a threat to those species so that we can continue to see thriving nature and wildlife into the future. But, if you're a cat owner and you've listened to all of what I've just said right now, and if it hasn't really resonated with you, you're not alone, and that's totally okay. We know that the research shows that stats like this about the effect of cats on wildlife is not particularly helpful in convincing cat owners that they should keep their cats inside, and neither are images like this one that I've got on screen here, so I'll take it away. Because, when we see our cats, and as I said, I'm not a cat owner right now, but I have been a cat owner my whole life. When we see our cats, they're not in that, we're typically not seeing them with a bird in their mouth. They're much more likely to look like this gorgeous little cat here, snuggled up, looking very sleepy. I personally would be very happy to snuggle up with this cat in front of the fireplace. It's looking very cozy. And so this is one of the reasons that, when we speak with cat owners, we've had a lot of conversations where people sort of have this belief that their cat isn't killing wildlife even if they're outside, or if they kill wildlife, it's only introduced species. Or I know a lot of cat owners sort of may only have a few instances that they've recalled seeing their cat with an animal in their mouth. But in reality, a lot of cats don't necessarily bring all of what they've caught back home with them. And even if they're well fed, cats just have the instinct to hunt. So it's just still going to continue to happen, even if you don't necessarily see it. So it's not that cat owners don't care about native wildlife or anything like that. There's just this disconnect that we see between what the science is showing us and the beliefs that some cat owners hold around what their cats are doing. There's, I guess, that disconnect between a cat's actions and what's visible to their cat owner if they're outdoors. So any cat owners out there know that, when it comes to these conversations about cats and wildlife, it can sometimes, unfortunately, become quite an emotive issue. But we really believe that you don't have to love cats or wildlife. We've got plenty of staff at Zoos Victoria who even, work with the really critically endangered wildlife out in the field, and they understand the threat of cats, but a lot of them also still have pet cats at home that they keep safely indoors. So it's entirely possible to love all of our different forms of animals in our world. Cat owners, we're really prioritising the welfare of our cats and looking to do what's best for them. So that's really what informs our decisions more so than the wildlife aspect of the equation. So for the majority of cat owners, this is the main factor that's basing our decisions around how we choose to contain our cats. And that makes complete sense. Our cats are, they're part of our family. They're so dependent on us, and we have so much love for our beautiful companion animals. But many cat owners don't realise how far cats can roam when they are allowed to be outside, how many roads they cross, how many other different forms of dangers that they can face. And unfortunately, many cat owners can also attest to the fact that cats sometimes don't come home, and that can be such a devastating thing when that happens. Sarah will also sort of touch more on the welfare benefits on keeping a cat indoors, so I won't sort of go too deep into it. But in developing this campaign, we really learned that while it is entirely possible to keep cats indoors and safe at home and having a really positive welfare state, we also learned that, for some, this can be a shift for some cat owners, and that it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. So we need to give people the support to be able to give their cats a really great quality of life when they're safe at home. So as we were looking into developing this campaign, we did some focus groups, and we looked into how we can encourage and support cat owners to keep their cats safe at home, and what cat owners would need to be able to be comfortable doing this and confident. And our research showed that there were really two driving factors that we need to be able to contribute to cat owners to feel confident in this space. So in these two quotes that we've got here in orange text, you can see, one person said, "It's too hard to keep my cat happy at home." Someone else didn't know how to find the information on what their cat needs. So we really saw that sort of need for a way to help build cat owners' confidence to be able to deliver their welfare needs of their cat. And for some people, it also requires a shift in attitudes. Like, many things in society, things can happen differently now to how things have been done in the past. And to keep cats safe at home, all members of the household, or everyone, all of the caretakers of a cat need to sort of, I guess, agree on the approach of where their cat is going to be contained, or how they're going to approach meeting their cat's welfare needs. And so I guess we've found that that's most successful if it's approached through that welfare lens, and if all sort of caretakers of the cat can understand that it's going to be a benefit for the cat's welfare. But yes, these are those two ingredients to help cat owners to be confident and able to keep their cats indoors. So our Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife campaign set about with building confidence and skills in cat owners. It's been around for, I think, 6 years now, to be able to, and helping to empower more and more cat owners in this space. So the first way, when we created this campaign, the first way that we've built confidence in cat owners, and this is something that you're all able to access as well, is we wanted to just basically create one central location where you can find basically the answers to any questions that you might come across or encounter as you transition a cat indoors, or if a cat is indoors and you're trying to sort of give them a really great quality of life. So we created our Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife website, which if you're on your computer, you may want to also open up as safecat.org.au. You can have a bit of a browse as you listen to us talk. We have a great website full of blogs and information written by experts in their fields, both at Zoos Victoria and RSPCA Victoria, and also a few other guest contributors as well, on a huge range of topics. So some of our blog topics, for example, include how to choose indoor plants that are safe for cats, or recently the RSPCA team put together a detailed 3-part blog series on how to train your cat to use a harness if you want to take them outdoors for some supervised, safe outdoor time on a harness. It's a little bit more involved, I guess, than taking a dog for a walk. So I know when I adopted my next cat, I'm very excited to refer back to those blog posts and see what the great advice from the RSPCA team was on exactly kind of the step-by-step of how to go about that. And on the right, we've got a screenshot of a blog in which one of our zookeepers talks about how they deliver enrichment for the big cats at our zoos, and some fun ways to sort of adapt what is done for, the lions and the snow leopards, and adapt how that can be done instead for little domestic cats at home. So we've got a lot of fun content as well for you to it's really to make it fun and easy to keep your cat safe at home. As well as the blogs, we've also got a further wealth of information in the form of these cat hacks, we call them. So we've got lots of these on our website where they're just really short, simple little things like they're just going to sort of spark an idea for you, something that you might not have thought of before, to sort of try out with your cat. Cats also need a lot of variety, so it's fun to sort of switch up the different ideas that you're doing to keep your cats happy as they're spending time indoors. We also have an email newsletter which we send out to people who have joined our Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife community, which has a huge range of information, offers. We also do a lot of sharing lovely stories from other cat owners, so you can kind of see what's worked for someone else usually within Victoria as well, to see what's worked well for others. It's something that might spark an idea for you as well. And we love, on the topic of sharing stories, we really love it every time we post on social media about Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife. We always get amazing photos in the comments of people sharing photos of their cats and what they've been doing, indoors, and the fun that they've been getting up to with their owners as well. So I'll do a little plug. We'd love to have you joining our Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife community. We've got a little QR code on the screen that you can use, or again, you can just log over to safecat.org.au as well to find it as well. It's really, it's a free sign up just with your email, and gives you access to lots of fantastic expert advice and tips and tricks. We've had more than 30,000 cat owners join our community so far, and we're loving to see that continue to grow. And you can really be at any stage of the journey. So, you might be someone who already does keep your cat contained inside your home, but would like to sort of learn some interesting new fun tips and tricks on how to keep your cat happy. Or you might be someone who's never had a cat that's been an indoor cat, and you want to explore more about how that's all going to work and start those sort of initial steps to transition your cat inside. Wherever you're at, everyone's welcome. We love all cat owners. So yeah, we'd love to welcome you into our community. We've also got for your interest, I've got a few little snapshots of the current state of cat ownership within Australia. So we now have 5.3 million pet cats within Australia. So it's 1 in 3 households that have a pet cat, which is pretty huge, and I think makes sense because they are the perfect pet in my view. We've got around 40% of pet cats that have been acquired since 2021, and quite a young population of cats, with 29% today being 2 years of age or younger. So it's interesting to sort of see what the landscape looks like these days. And we're also very excited to see that people who are keeping their cats at home are part of a growing movement. So in 2016, 34% of cats were kept indoors only, according to a pet ownership survey. And in 2023, the same survey was run, and it has increased up to 42%. So we're seeing that that's growing, and we're really excited to see that trend moving in the right direction. And the faster, I guess, that this change can progress, the more cats are being kept safe, the more wildlife is benefiting as well. So we're seeing that more and more organisations are speaking about this topic. We're seeing that more and more councils as well are implementing education or legislation for cat containment, which is sort of interesting to see that trend as well. And we're also hearing a lot from vets that they're seeing a kind of cultural shift from cat owners, that behaviour seems to be changing, not only about keeping cats indoors, but also just that increased care for cats, which is fantastic, which is really lovely to see. So it's very encouraging to see that more cats are living their best life at home. And very scientifically, I've put in here that keeping cats at home means more cat snuggles, of course, when they're in the mood. But of course also helps on the wildlife side of things. And we've got a lovely blog, or a few different blogs up on our Safe Cats, Safe Wildlife website as well, about how, like, other ways that you can make your garden more wildlife friendly. Because yeah, you might start to see, as cats are kept inside. I know for myself, I've been at someone's house where when they open the door and the cat goes outside, you just hear the birds all doing an alarm call, and kind of you can see the sort of reaction to the cat going outside. So it can be really lovely as well to observe as cats sort of start to move inside, see how different animals are starting to occupy your garden and make use of that space that's now become more safe for them. And it can be nice to be a cat too. Some good views out the window of lizards moving around and that sort of thing, that then are safe from the cat but can still be observed, which is always fun too. Working in this space of this campaign, we have heard a lot of accounts of conflicts, I guess, arising between neighbours around cats that are roaming outdoors. And so we've just got a few little, I guess, conversation tips, since these conversations we know have sometimes become quite emotive, but we think that there are some really positive ways that we can go about having conversations with our friends and family or neighbours, if there is someone that you want to broach a conversation about their cat with. So our first tip is just really considering the cat owner's perspective and remembering that their cat is a really valued member of their family, and that the cat owner is just wanting the best for their cat. They're thinking about their cat's welfare first and foremost, but it doesn't necessarily mean, or usually doesn't mean, that they don't care about wildlife. It just means that they love their cat. And it can work really well to share some resources with them. You might be interested to introduce them to our Safe Cats, Safe Wildlife campaign and the free resources that we have to support cat owners. For example, sometimes we've seen what's worked well can be sharing a blog post, for example, with a neighbour or a friend to sort of help sort of spark those ideas and start those conversations for people. And another, third and final tip for that one is just not expecting an immediate result after having a conversation, because change can take time, both for the cat owner as they grow their confidence in meeting their cat's needs indoors, and also for the cat to sort of make that transition. You know, if a cat's, for example, outside 10 hours of the day today, they're probably not going to move down to 0 hours outside tomorrow. It might take some time, and that can really vary from cat to cat and from cat owner to cat owner, how long that transition can take. So just have that kind of understanding as well is always a really important piece. That's it from me, and I'll now hand over to Dr. Sarah Irwin, who will be able to help us with some tips on how to make your cat look as happy as this little cat here in this photo. So I will stop sharing and pass over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Estelle. Hi, everyone. All right, let me just share my screen. All right. Let me see if this works. I look good? Cool. All right. So as Estelle said, you don't need to choose between wildlife and cats. You can love both. I've definitely grown to appreciate Australian wildlife a lot more since I've moved here. You guys have the most interesting wildlife, I think, in the world. It was hard to choose a favorite, but I think sugar gliders are one of my favorites because they're just so cute and they look like little Pokemon. But I also love cats. I think since working as a shelter vet for the last few years, I think I've grown in appreciation for my love of cats as well. And this is my little cat Squid here, who will feature heavily today. So this is him looking probably better than he usually looks. He's usually not this well composed. All right, so a quick overview of what we will talk about. I will chat about Squid because I think he's a good example of a cat that used to live outdoors and the consequences that had on his health and well-being and his welfare. And he is now a fully indoor cat and how that is going for him. We're going to look at the safe cat, so benefits of an indoor life for your cat. How to transition an outdoor cat to indoor life, which, as Estelle said, can be gradual and can be challenging sometimes, but we have some tips on how to help you, and then ways to keep cats contained. It's come a long way, I think, in the last few years, so we'll go through that. And then enrichment, so making indoor life full and fun for your cat. It is really important to provide mental stimulation and physical exercise for cats indoors, because we don't want them becoming bored, I guess. There's probably a better word than that. And we don't want them becoming inactive, because that can lead to health problems such as obesity and joint problems and diabetes and things like that. So when we move them indoors, we want to make sure that we're still providing enough mental and physical stimulation for them. Because when they're living outdoors, obviously they get that naturally. All right, so Squid is about 8-ish, on my best estimation. He came into the RSPCA as a stray. He was entire, so he had his testicles. He didn't have any microchips or signs of ownership. So we held him for 8 days. No one came forward, and then he needed some medical treatment. He was desexed, obviously, and microchipped and vaccinated and flea wormed. He also needed 3 dentals. He needed some work on a sore leg he had, and he had a lot of scars on his face from cat fights. As you can probably, the last picture is probably better on his nose. That's him when he was healed, but he had a lot of wounds all over him from cat fights. He was then adopted. He then beat up their other cat, so he was returned, and then I adopted him, and he's now a solo child. He has FIV, so anyone who's not familiar with that, that's feline immunodeficiency virus, similar to HIV in humans. We see it a lot in cats, especially male cats that live outdoors, because they get it through cat fights. It doesn't impact their life when they are well looked after. It generally, they generally live as long as a normal cat. But when they are outdoors and when they are semi-owned or not getting the care they need, it can impact their quality of life, their welfare, and their life expectancy. It is also contagious, so they can give it to other cats through fighting. So keeping cats indoors just eliminates the risk of this completely. And thankfully, it's not affecting Squid anymore, but it probably had a lot. It probably had a lot to do with his dental disease and why he needed so much work on his mouth, because it can really impact their mouth. And hopefully he's loving his new life at the moment. He's currently asleep on the couch on a heated blanket, so I don't think he has any complaints. All right, so the safe cat. Keeping cats indoors helps keep them safe. I think that's pretty obvious to most people. There's so many risks out there in the world. As a vet, sadly, I've seen so many cats killed in road traffic accidents, and if they aren't killed, they're severely injured. As you know, our society becomes more urbanized, and as there's more roads everywhere, cats have to navigate these roads. And as you can imagine, a 4 or 5 kilo little cat doesn't stand a chance against a Ford Ranger going 100 kilometers an hour. And as Estelle mentioned, you know, people are aware the cats sometimes don't come home, and sadly, it's often the case that they are killed, either by cars or other animals or other cats. Cat fight injuries are quite serious. This photo here is of a cat with a cat bite abscess on his chin. Cats have really good weapons in their teeth and their nails. They are obviously created to be predators, but what that means is that their nails and their teeth really inoculate bacteria deep into the tissue but in a really narrow way. So it heals quickly, but then the bacteria that's been pushed all the way in proliferates and causes really nasty infections. So anyone who's ever been bitten or scratched by a cat will know it's a really serious incident, and you need to go to the doctor. Sadly, cats, when they are in fights and they're outdoors, they don't have this option to bring themselves to hospital, and they get these really nasty serious abscesses, and they can actually be fatal for them. They can cause septicemia. So obviously keeping them indoors totally eliminates this risk. As we mentioned, FIV, very prominent in semi-owned cats, male entire cats especially, and it is spread through blood and saliva, so fighting. And again, keeping a cat indoors just kind of eliminates this risk. There is a vaccine for FIV, but it's actually on short supply, so there's none in Australia at the moment. So sadly, we can't vaccinate for it at the moment. Parasites, which may not sound very serious, but cats can really suffer from heavy flea burdens, which can cause anemia. Heavy worm burdens can cause malnutrition and emaciation. And other things like mites and ticks can cause other issues. Snake bites, our lovely native snakes, obviously some of them are venomous and they can bite, obviously naturally they'll bite a cat if they get chased by it. Snakes are a great toy to a cat. They don't know that it's gonna bite them, so they will chase after them and hunt them naturally. It's in their instinct. And snake bites, if they're not fatal, they require a lot of veterinary care to help that cat survive. It's really costly. A vial of antivenom is about $900. So again, you can eliminate this by just keeping your cat indoors. Tick paralysis, thankfully we don't have this down here in Victoria. May become more of a problem as the climate changes, but up north and east, they have this problem, which is also really serious. And then finally, dog attacks are extremely common. Cats get themselves into trouble when they jump into neighbors' gardens. There's dogs in the garden, and naturally, you know, a small fluffy animal jumping into a garden can be what's the word, like trigger a predatory or prey response in a dog. And a little 4 or 5 kilo dog or a little cat doesn't stand much of a chance against the jaws of a dog a lot of the time. So all these risks are quite serious, and no one would like to think of their little pet being in any of these circumstances. So keeping cats indoors can just eliminate the exposure to these risks. It is known that indoor cats live longer lives than cats outdoors, if we provide them with the right kind of life indoors. We need to make sure they are full and enriched lives, which we'll talk about in a little bit. All right, so transitioning a cat to indoors can be a bit daunting for a lot of people. I think the first step is to just accept that it won't happen overnight, as Estelle said. It may take time and you need to be patient. I think probably the best first step is to start keeping your cat indoors at night. This is the riskiest time for a cat to be outside. It's the time where most road traffic accidents happen. Also, we have some lovely nocturnal native animals and we don't want them to be predated upon. So feeding your cat in the evening and then keeping them indoors after that. Generally, once a cat has eaten, they will snooze. It's kind of in their natural pattern. They'll eat, they might go to the bathroom, they might groom for a little bit and then they'll snooze. So feeding them in the evening and keeping them in at night. Cats really love to be warm. They really seek out heat. So in the colder months, it can be easier to keep them inside because they will want to be warm. So perfect time at the moment as Melbourne becomes dark and grey. You need to make sure that indoor life is appealing for them. So providing a safe space for the cat to sleep. Needs to be away from other animals, generally elevated. They like to be off the ground and away from loud areas like the kitchen, or if there's a lot of small kids, just having a space. Sometimes in a wardrobe, they really like being in a wardrobe. That can be a safe space for them. And little igloo beds are great because they keep them cozy, but they also provide protection for them, like they feel safe within them. As all cat owners know, cats are very sneaky and they can escape unnoticed if you haven't checked everything. They can really wrangle themselves through small spaces and they can jump much higher than you probably think. So making sure that the windows are closed and fly screens are secure, chimneys are blocked off. Cats will climb chimneys and get themselves into real mischief. And also if you're in an apartment, being really mindful of balconies. Cats can jump off or fall off balconies. You think they would kind of know not to, but I guess it's not a natural height or environment for them to kind of be cautious about. So we need to block balconies off from them. And as I said, we need to make life indoors really appealing. So that can be by using treats, affection, if they are a cat that likes a lot of affection and cuddles and pats, and comfort. So warmth, coziness, safety are really key. If you're providing all of their requirements indoors, if you're making the indoor life like easier than outdoor life, that will help you convince them that indoors is good. All right, so how to catify your home. So as I said, they really like elevated spaces. So vertical spaces are really important for cats. If we just think of like their primitive brain, in nature, cats would like to be up high because it's safer. They can also survey the area around them, because they are both prey and predator species. So they would want to see where their prey are, but they also want to hide from things predating on them. So high space is really important. This is Squid on his little sun lounger, it's not the word, his hammock that he loves. It has, just be mindful of these in the summer. The hot weather does make them less sticky, and it has fallen off the window twice, which gave him a real shock. So just be careful of those. Providing somewhere to hide, as I said, igloo beds are good, tunnels, cardboard boxes. Doesn't need to be fancy. They don't know the difference between a cardboard box and an expensive bed from, you know, Pet Circle. So just a cardboard box with a nice cozy blanket in it will be great for them. Using Feliway pheromone sprays or diffusers, I'm sure lots of people have seen these. It can really help settle them into their new environment if you are moving them indoors. If you're using a diffuser, my advice would be to use it in the room that they will spend most of their time in. If they are a cat that will sleep in multiple spaces, maybe the spray will be better. Just use it on their bedding. The setup of where their food, water, and litter are really important for cats. Again, it goes back to their primitive brain. They would not eat, they would not drink water next to where they eat, because generally if they're preying on something and they're eating a carcass or, you know, in the body of something, they wouldn't drink water next to that because it would be contaminated by blood and offal and feces and things like that. So they would always drink water away from where they eat because it's going to be safer and cleaner. So trying to trying to emulate that at home. So have their food in one spot, have water nearby, and then always have a secondary water somewhere else completely different. Make sure their water is fresh every day, and that the water is filled up to the brim of the water bowl, because they don't like getting their whiskers wet. So they like to lap from like a flat surface. And then their litter should be somewhere completely different as well. They will not want to eat or drink near their litter because they are really conscious about hygiene naturally, and they want that to be completely separate because it's dirty. And then when you are using toys, just try to pick toys that will encourage natural behavior. So chasing, scratching, hunting, running after something. These things will mentally stimulate them, but they'll also physically exert them as well. Just a bit more on litter. There are lots of litter rules. The N+1 rule is really important. So N is the number of cats you have in the house, and then you add 1. So if you have 1 cat, you should have 2 litter trays. And if you have 3 cats, you should have 4 litter trays. The reason for this is cats are really picky about where they go to the bathroom. They often don't like to defecate where they urinate. They want to keep them separate. I know Squid, once he does a wee, he will come out and scream at me or my partner until we clean it, and then he'll go in and he'll go to the toilet again because he wants it separated. So they are quite picky about that. You may, when you're transitioning a cat from outdoor to indoor life, you may need to start with actually using soil or dirt in your litter tray, because that's what the substance they'll be used to from going outside. And then once they're used to it, once they're using it consistently, then moving gradually onto the litter substance you're going to use. So, you know, doing that over, once they're using it well, doing it gradually over about 2 weeks, moving it towards the substrate you're going to use. As I said, the location is really important. You don't want it in a busy place. You don't want it next to another litter tray if you have more than one cat, and you don't want it near their food or water. And they are quite private about going to the bathroom, so having it in the laundry or the bathroom or like the porch or anything like that will probably help. It really depends on the cat if you use a covered or a non-covered litter tray. It's trial and error a lot of the time. Some shy cats or like nervous cats will prefer covered litter trays, but I would probably start with a not covered one. And then if you're fine, or if you're going to have two anyway, have one covered and one not covered. The general rule of a litter tray is it should be 1.5 times the length of your cat. So if you do have a big cat, like squid, you need to get quite a big one. It doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be expensive. You can even go into Bunnings and just get like a big kind of tray, like a tray that you would use for like painting with a roller. Cats don't know the difference. Litter type and depth. Trial and error again, cats will have their own preference. Depth is important. It should be around 3 centimeters deep, roughly, because they do like to dig. That's really important, because that's what they would do naturally. Litter type, trial and error, and usually if you have two, try with 2 different substrates, see what they prefer, and then you can just move to that one. When you're starting off having an indoor cat, just buy small bags of the litter you're using, because you will find out that they don't like one of them for sure. And most of the, just a note, most of the pet shops will take litter back if your cat doesn't like it. They have a guarantee on that. I have learned that myself. And then keeping your litter really clean is really important. Cats don't like to use the litter tray twice in a row, and they want it to be clean. Obviously, it's not practical if you're at work all day, but try to clean in the morning and the evening, and then maybe once a week or every 2 weeks, emptying the whole litter tray and cleaning it out with boiling water. Don't use strong disinfectants, especially things that smell like citrus. Cats really hate citrus smells. So just boiling water, and then if it is a sunny day, even letting it dry outside in the sunshine is a good idea. All right, I think that's pretty much it. And yes, they do make a big mess when they're using their litter tray. So try to put it somewhere not with carpet is my advice. Okay, so cat containment, I think, has come a long way since I was young and since I had a cat when I was growing up. There are some really great catios and cat enclosures out there. There's some really good ideas on the internet. This one down on the left of the screen here, I think, is really nice. The only thing I would change about it is having a part of it that is enclosed, because this is all open, and cats generally want somewhere that they can run and hide to if something scary happens. So for instance, if another cat jumped into this yard and they wanted to hide from it, they don't really have an opportunity to hide. So you want somewhere that is just, you know, put a tarp up or something like that. There are some companies that sell fancy catios, and they are great, but it doesn't need to be like this. You can make them relatively cheaply. Stuff from Bunnings. There are some great groups on Facebook that people put up their tips on how to build cat enclosures out of things that you can buy for pretty cheap. So yeah, you just need to make sure that the material you use, that they can't get like their paws stuck in it, or they can't like slither out of it, especially if it's a young or small cat. As Estelle mentioned, cat harnesses are great, and you can train a lot of cats to use them. My recommendation would be to go really slow and to watch those videos on the website, because it is quite a strange feeling for a cat to wear a harness at the start, and it's unlikely that they will just jump into it and be ready to go for a walk. It's probably easier to train a younger cat or a quite extroverted cat to do it, but I think it's possible in all cats if you try hard enough and if you have patience. And you use a lot of positive reinforcement and never use negative reinforcement for things like this. You don't want to instill any fear associated with it. And then I found this on the internet down on the right hand side, just this little kind of tent setup. So really useful for people if they're renting and they can't build permanent enclosures. They can get something like this. Doesn't need to be as elaborate as this, but it does give the cats kind of opportunities to, you know, smell the outdoors, look around, use their senses, feel grass on their feet and things like that. Again, the only change I would make would be I would just enclose. I would just cover one of these little compartments that they have like a dark area that they can run to if they get scared. All right, and then enrichment. So moving a cat indoors will be a big change for them if they are outdoors previously. An outdoor life, you know, naturally provides a lot of stimulation to a cat. There's noises, smells, there's different creatures, you know, there's a lot of positive and negative things out there for them mentally. So when we bring them indoors, we can't just bring them inside, feed them in the morning, go to work for 10 hours, come back, feed them, and then go to bed. They will become bored and they may become depressed, and they will also likely become overweight if they're not exercising. So we want to provide opportunities to express normal behaviors. So hunting, playing, scratching, these are all natural things that they would do in the wild. So when we're playing games, especially like hunting and predatory play games with them, we want to make sure that it's a really short, intense experience. So when a cat is hunting something in the wild, they will exert a lot of energy very quickly, and then it'll be over. So we kind of want to emulate this. We don't want to play kind of lacklusterly for about 20 minutes. The cat will not engage. They will just check out. We want to do something quick and really exciting for 10 minutes. And then they need to get something at the end of it. That's really important. So a little picture of Squid here playing with his little squid toy. He trying to bite it even though he has no teeth. At the end of like a play session, let them have the toy, because that is them like winning the prize, like winning the prey. If we don't let them like end up with something, they can become frustrated, and frustration can come out in aggression sometimes. So we want to, if you're playing with a feather toy, or like a little toy like this at the end of the string, let them get it at the end and let them have it, and then walk away so that they feel like they've wanted it. Scratching posts are great, and it's much better for them to scratch a scratching post than your couch, even though sometimes they'll do both. This scratching post down here, I think is just really cool, but it doesn't need to be this elaborate. I don't think everyone has space in their house for this, but it's a good example of something that provides different textures. So cats, just like us, they like different textures. It keeps things interesting. It has scratching post. It has a little cubby bed that they can hide from. It has other beds that they can lounge on, and it has dangly toys. So it really provides a lot of stimulation for the cats. And if you do have multiple cats, they can all sleep on it at once. Food puzzles are great. Most cats are pretty food motivated if there's tasty treats around. So things like licky mats are good, cat kongs, even just like cardboard egg cartons. You can put some food in, they have to get it out. It doesn't need to be expensive or fancy. And also boxes. We all know cats love boxes for some reason. They love to sit in boxes. Just leave a few boxes around when you're out and they'll probably just sit in each one for a little while, keep them a little bit entertained. And then finally, just like human kids, furry kids do like screen time. In the shelter, we often put on cat TV on our computers in the cat rooms. You can just put them on YouTube on replay, and it's like little bird sounds and videos of little birds, and I can keep them entertained. So you can do that if you're leaving the house for the day. If you know, leave the TV on and put that on. The main thing is that the cat can move away from it. We don't want to force them to be around that noise all the time, because that could lead to frustration. So we wanted to put it in an area that they can leave, so that they should be able to go and be quiet somewhere else. And then music is also really good. Leaving the radio on when you're at work is great. Just I would advise putting it to a classical channel. Apparently cats do like classical music. It can help calm them down. I did read an article years ago that apparently they like reggae music as well. I don't know how peer reviewed that study was, but another option if they get bored of the classical music. And it's important for enrichment to mix it up. If your cat does have, let's say, 5 toys, just having like 2 out at a time, and then every week just changing them over just to keep things interesting. Because just like us, they do get bored of things if they see them every day. So training is possible. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I have trained Squid to sit before his food. That's pretty much it. But I know there's a lot of people maybe with a little bit more patience than me that have trained their cats to do a lot. They are nearly as trainable as dogs. They just maybe take a little bit more time. So you can teach them to sit, lie down, high five, roll over, and stay, come to their name, jump up and things and all that. So that can be really fun, especially if you have kids in the house. It might be a fun activity for them to do. You just have to do it slowly and positively, and be patient and don't get frustrated. Cats aren't there for our entertainment, they are part of the family. If they're not keen on doing it someday, just let them be. And it is important to say, like, training happens whether we like it or not. We train our cats and our dogs just by doing things repeated, like by having a routine. Like my cat knows the sound of a treat bag. He knows the word, dinner. Like, we naturally train them, so we want to train them to do things that we want. If you don't want your cat eating human food, then don't feed them from the kitchen table. Just like start as a mean to go on once they're living in close proximity with you. And that's pretty much it. I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, and Estelle and Corey for having me. Hope that was somewhat useful. I'd really encourage people to go to the website. There's some really great resources on there, and share it amongst your friends and family if they have cats too. All right, let me just stop my screen share. Cool.
Fantastic. That was great. Thank you both. That was really informative, and I loved that you got a QR code in the shape of a cat. I also liked your cat excavator in the litter box meme, Sarah. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Very hard at work yesterday.
I suppose that's the good thing about doing cat stuff, is there's an endless supply of internet content.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just do a short Q&A now. I'll just have a look at the questions. So we have Anonymous asking, Dr. Sarah, you mentioned cats should have something at the end of playtime. Does this mean that lasers are very bad? Our cat loves playing with a laser.
That's a good question. That's a really good question, actually. I don't love lasers. I wouldn't encourage them, but if your cat really likes them, then try, once you finish the laser play, try to end it with a little toy or a treat. So bring the laser over to a little bowl of treats or a Kong or something like that. Because lasers can lead to frustration in cats. Because they get them really, really excited. They're like high arousal toys. But then once you turn them off, there's no satisfaction for the cat. So you can, I don't love them, but if your cat really enjoys them, maybe just start using them less. But when you do use them, end up with a little treat or a toy or something they can play with then, as if the little prize or little, we're trying to emulate that they've hunted something. So
yeah. Fascinating. I've never thought of that. That was a great question. Thank you. Anonymous also asks, on the topic of enrichment, how do you know if a cat is depressed?
That's also a very good question. I guess lack of enthusiasm, which can be hard in cats, especially if you have an older cat, because that can, like sleeping more, not engaging as much, can be a sign of a lot of things. It can be a sign of illness, it can be a sign of arthritis, but it also can be a sign of, I guess depression is probably the wrong word. I guess like, probably better, I'm no behaviorist, but like, yeah, lack of like mental stimulation, let's say, rather than depression, because I feel like that's quite a loaded word and we don't necessarily recognize depression in animals. It's more like poor mental health. So lack of engagement in behaviors that they would normally have enjoyed. So changing in their attitude, if they usually like really liked, you know, getting head scratches, and if they really liked usually playing with their ball and now they just like are indifferent, that's probably a sign that they're not feeling that great about their environment. Usually once we see a change in behavior in cats, that's a sign that something's going on. I would also encourage any major change in behavior to be checked by a vet, just in case it is medical or pain related. Cats are really good at hiding illness and hiding pain, because in the wild it would have been, because they are predated on, they would have been picked out as the weaker ones. So they're very good at hiding things, which is really frustrating as a vet. Tell us you're sick, please. But also changes in behavior can be a sign that maybe their environment isn't enough for them. So becoming more aggressive, biting, scratching, attacking out of nowhere, can also be a lot of things. It can be pain related as well. We always need to like rule out pain in cats, and especially oral pain and musculoskeletal pain. So dental disease and arthritis are really common in cats, so we want to rule them out first. So definitely have a chat with your vet. But if you kind of rule those things out, then trying to just try a few different things, trying to introduce different enrichment techniques for them. So if they are really food motivated, maybe breaking up their meals, you know, not feeding them all their food in their meals, putting some of it into toys or food puzzles, licky mats, even like freezing their food, like some of their food, and then letting kind of defrost, like they have to like lick and work at it to get it. But yeah, there's definitely some good resources on the Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife website, and also the RSPCA website. There are some good behavior handouts. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Anonymous. We have another question from Anonymous. What about a cat that carries on at the door meowing a couple of hours after dinner? He seems distressed, wanting to go out. He won't use the litter box, even though there is two, and has a history of urinary problems. So we worry that he needs to use the toilet.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we don't want to make any urinary problems worse, but also we want to try to encourage him to use the indoor litter tray. Trying to mix up the substrate you use, so trying to even bring some dirt from your own garden in, so that the scent will be the same, and using that in the litter tray. Maybe putting a litter tray near the front door, maybe even adding an extra litter tray, feeding him even later in the evening. So like getting him in a bit later and feeding him like a bigger meal in the evening. They usually will want to sleep soon after that. Speaking to your vet, he might even need some like short-term, you know, medication that can help with anxiety. We need to be really mindful of our cats prone to urinary issues, because stress is a huge factor in feline lower urinary tract disease. So even maybe a short-term medication, like something like gabapentin, can help. Like it's an anti-anxiety medication, and that can help the transition. It doesn't have to be forever. It can just be for that transition period until they're more comfortable in their environment, and then you can wean up.
That's some really great ideas there. Putting soil in the litter box, that's very clever.
Yeah, we see it a lot in the shelter, because obviously we get a lot of stray cats in, and stressy, especially male cats. They won't use, they just don't know what the litter that we use is. Like they've never seen that. It smells weird. So we just bring some dirt in and put in the litter tray, and then once they've used it like for several days, we'll start transitioning the mixture. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for the question. And we have Karen, who is going to a community festival and would like to promote this. Do you have handouts that she can display or give to residents to take home to read?
We absolutely, we absolutely do. And thank you so much, Karen. That would be fantastic. We would love to have your help in promoting it. I'm thinking in terms of the best way to get your details, perhaps if you email us at safecat@zoo.org.au, then I can find your email and we'll be able to get your details to be able to post some materials out to you. And if you didn't catch me saying that email address just then, it's also, if you go on the Safe Cat, Safe Wildlife website, on there's like a contact us button that links to that email. But I'll just repeat it again just in case: safecat@zoo.org.au. Thanks. We'd love to hear from you, Karen.
Awesome. Thanks, Estelle. Thank you, Karen. I'll do a couple more. Corinne, this is a bit of a long one. She says, I'd like advice about how best to, as least stressfully as possible, capture a neighbour's cat constantly roaming at night and killing wildlife. And a shelter with a no-kill policy can take it if the neighbour decides not to pay to get it back from a shelter. That's the first part of the question. I would say to get advice from your council on the particular process that's involved there. Would that be the case, Estelle and Sarah?
Yeah, I think it's best to speak to your council. I think we want to avoid like taking any owned cats into a shelter environment if they don't need to be in there, because you are putting that cat at risk of getting diseases by bringing them in. And if they are owned by someone, then, and if the council doesn't have like a curfew rule, then they are allowed to have their cat outside. But maybe having a chat to your council about their rules and their advice, maybe trying to find a solution between both parties would be good.
Yeah, and the second part of that question is, she said, Corinne says, we've asked them several times to contain the cat and offered to build a large cat cage adjoining their house, but unfortunately they are proud of their good little hunter. So I guess the question is, what when you've tried one type of communication, what can you do?
I think I'd probably suggest just with the words like good little hunter, it's probably not right to sort of chat to them about the wildlife angle, because then I can see from what you've written about, Corinne, I can see that you're worried about them killing wildlife, which is really fantastic. But yeah, just going back to thinking about from their perspective, it's probably going to be more effective to sort of talk about the risk for the cat as opposed to the effect that it's going to have on wildlife. I think often the sort of personal stories work quite well. Like, it's so common that, like, I know I've got multiple friends who have had cats that go missing, and I think relaying those sorts of personal stories of basically the negative things of what can happen if your cat is outdoors can really be a good prompt for someone to sort of reconsider their decision to be able to basically give their cat the best opportunity of being safe. So I'm not sure if you've tried that already, but maybe it's more looking at it that, like, changing your tack with them to be more on that side. And as I've mentioned before, maybe like going on our blog and finding a few nice, like thinking from their perspective, what could be a resource that could be helpful to sort of share with them potentially. Yeah. It's hard though, and it's as I said, like, we've got 42% of people, we don't have everyone yet keeping their cats indoors, and some people are, I guess, really receptive to it and just want to learn how, whereas some people are a little bit less receptive. So it might be a little bit dependent on their attitude as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Corinne, and thanks, Estelle. We have one more question here. This is the big one. This is the important one. It's on everyone's mind. How do you stop a cat from drinking from the sink?
Good question. So the reason that they like drinking from the sink is because it's like fresh flowing water, and in their little, in their little minds, not that their minds are little, but in their like primitive cat minds, flowing water is safe because it's fresh. So that's why they like sinks and showers and baths, because it symbolizes fresher, safer water for them to drink. It can be a hard behavior to change because they probably they will always kind of see that as a better option than a still bowl. I would suggest getting like a little cat fountain and trying that, and placing it relatively near to the sink, like in the kitchen somewhere. So a little cat fountain, so it's constantly flowing. It might take them a while to kind of realize it's there. It won't happen overnight. But in the meantime, to try to discourage them going to the sink, not letting the tap obviously drip, or not letting water sit in the sink is important. Sorry, my voice is going. I have COVID. Putting tinfoil in the sink can be helpful. They really don't like tinfoil. They don't like the feel and the reflection of it. So when you're not using the sink, putting that in there as a deterrent, it's not going to harm the cat. It's just going to be annoying for them. So hopefully it'll like make that behavior less rewarding. But yeah, I would definitely try the fountain. Get a fountain. You can get them online. They're not super expensive. There's a lot of variety. I think Kmart even do them for a pretty reasonable price. And then always having like fresh water bowls around as well. I recommend stainless steel bowls. They're generally they generally prefer them because they collect less bacteria because they're stainless steel. Then yeah, we tend not to advise for plastic bowls because they tend to hold on to scent more as well, and cats really are sensitive to scent. And when you're cleaning bowls, use boiling water. Try not to use dish soap and things like that, because it can discourage them from approaching the bowls, because they will smell them much more than we can smell them.
Cool. Well, we might end the Q&A there. Thank you, Estelle, and thank you, Sarah. This has been absolutely fantastic. There have been so many great little nuggets of information there and great bits of advice.
Thank you. Thanks, Corey. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for the great questions too.
Yeah.